Let me say a special good morning to our listeners. Those of you at Classic Radio, good morning. Those of you who are viewing via GBN TV, good morning also. What about our social media audience out there? Facebook, the YouTube channels, GBN's webpage. Good morning and welcome to another edition of To The Point. Let me say good morning to Mr. Sylvan. Intyre, good morning to you, sir. Welcome to another edition of To The Point for Monday. The 19th day already.
19th of June. Yes. June 19th.
Well, it's Juneteenth. Let's call it Juneteenth.
Yeah, but I ring a bell, you know.
Yeah, it's Juneteenth. Actually.
I think June 19th is significant in our history. Yeah. I think the bomb blast a couple of years after the revolution.
Was it June 19th also?
I think it was June 19th.
I can't remember it. I was
but it was somewhere, or maybe October 19th was one thing, but I think there was a June situation. Somebody may call and correct us.
Somebody may call.
But there was a bombing that happened.
I am recalling that when that
even Morrison and others were attempted,
yes.
And then Lawrence Humphrey and Bernadette Bailey and those folks lost their limbs, and Humphrey died and all of that.
Somebody calling. Let me somebody's probably calling and just want to give us some highlights of that. Good morning to you, caller. Welcome.
Yeah, morning, gentlemen. How was your for yesterday?
Not bad at all.
Yeah, there was June 19th bombing in the park.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
June 19th.
Then again, it says a lot about our history,
yes,
how we maintain it, and how we keep our younger people informed as to what's happening.
The memory of it is starting to come back. I was pretty young that time, so you know that time you didn't worry much about those things.
I was too, GT.
You're not worried much about those things back then in comparison to where younger people put a lot of attention into things now.
Yes.
You know, I have some two young boys, and they were so concerned about that crash that happened last week, and they were asking, Daddy, what about this or about that? In my time at their age, I could care less.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
Or I will prefer to be outside running around and stuff like that instead of putting my attention into what happened in a plane crash and stuff like that and hearing the news. I just mentioned it to them and they just grabbed their interest right through.
Right.
You understand? Totally asking questions what had happened, what could be done, and what we're going to do and stuff like that. Comparison to my time as being at their age. You understand? So
yes. Yeah. So it's a different era, and I would want to say good morning to our listeners or followers and my favorite team I have outside there. And I have people who follow this program all the time. The line blazed up very early, I think, because we actually hit a nerve in terms of the June 19th.
I mean, I'm seeing the phone going on, but we're going to entertain.
No, we're going to take them later on.
We're going to take them a little later on in the morning. We're going to entertain. I know folks are calling to give their piece on that, but we're going to get back to you shortly because we're probably going to involve a lot of calls this morning.
We probably definitely could do that. I think that was one of my angle as well, because very often we load the information on the program, and because it's important. So, but I think this morning I was gleaning on giving
public participation, more listeners and viewers participation. That will be welcome.
So we're gonna follow through, but I just wanna hit a little bit on the June 19th, and maybe we could have some people call in because it hinges on risk reduction and risk management as well. From when I was analyzing the topics that we use and we speak about, I realized there's a wide range of issues that we really can talk about, security issues and so forth.
Yes.
The angle from that, natural events, those have security and other implication for risk management. And even as we spoke about the bomb blast, as they call it, June 19th, there were a lot of security and risk issues that people don't really pay attention to. What do you look for at events as patrons or as organizers and so forth?
You attend an event, those are the things you do for, the do's and don'ts in terms of
access, egress,
exits and the entrances and so forth. How adequate it is in terms of the amount of individuals you have attending the events. Sometimes we don't look at that, and we can see, sometimes you see, an event, the magnitude of the crowd. Suppose there's an issue that would have occurred. How are folks going to get out and stuff like that?
Right. And at the time when that happened, how very conscious the security elements were. I mean, there was the issue of the counter-revolutionaries. I think it was really hot then because it was not too very long the revolution had happened.
Yes.
And there were persons who were wanting to fight back, and there were threats of, mercenaries and all of these things that could have happened, and the CIA and the infiltrations and all of these things. And people may thought that there could have been external influences and so forth. And when you have security elements at major events, there's something that people don't always see. The security detail always go ahead. They go in advance, maybe a day or two before. They do what is called a sweep, and they will do a lockdown of the area to ensure that the dignitaries are properly inspected. Are we following that? And for major events, I think we elaborated on that a bit, where people are invited to events. How well do we take that into consideration? Their own safety, not just the VIPs, not just the dignitaries, but individuals as a whole. Do we check to see that the stands, whether or not they may have lost their integrity over a period of time?
Yes.
Do we check some of the electricals and other things and see that they're okay as well? And do we check the fire hoses and the fire alarm, whether they're working when last were they checked, and all these issues? So there's a lot of security issues that came up now that I just hit the June 19th issue. But we would not want to really be derailed from our program. Usually,
of course not.
We do the weekend review.
Yes.
In terms of what may have happened. We're hoping that this morning that traffic will chime in with me a little bit, call me later on and give me some stats. What I want to do is to generate that statistics reporting as to how we follow on road safety, the accidents that we have, the areas that they are concentrated on, the suspected nature of the accident, and where it actually happened, how it happened, and what is really done about it. So we want to follow that, because I think as we emphasize on these programs safety issues, people are becoming more conscious, and I can see how we are making the small steps. Later on we'll be speaking on the issues that we spoke about earlier on,
and
how they've been addressed.
And then they have been addressed, the little dents that we've been making, you understand, and it's been fixed, you understand? So it's like you make that dent and they fix it. It's like, like something.
And there are some things that are very...
It's like a little collision, but it has been, the problem has been fixed.
There are intangible things. It's like, for instance, the security risk that people speak after 9/11 and what they could have prevented. And after that, the U.S. putting some security mechanisms to avoid quite a number of sabotage and other things that could have happened. But when you do a breakthrough, people do not feel the impact on it in terms of it did not happen. It's when it happened and the amount of people or the amount of injury it caused, people tend to weigh that. But the things that you avoided from happening, people really don't see that and they can't measure it. Now, as we raise the road traffic and the safety and the disaster risk reduction issues, people may not now see the effect of what we are saying and feel it, because accidents might still be happening.
And folks might get the impression this has been spoken about before.
You understand? That's right.
But maybe the emphasis that we are putting into it now may not have been done before. You understand? And people say, well, accidents happen. It's not the first time someone gets hit by a car. It's not the first time one runs into another. But sometimes a lot of emphasis is not put into it.
To
create that constant awareness of how things could be prevented. You understand? And so that's the nature of what we do here.
And I think one of the weaknesses we identified in our culture, even through the formal sectors, that the aspect of M&E monitoring and evaluating, that sometimes that's a weakness. People don't really try to monitor and evaluate and give reports as to what may have happened at every stage. And so we decided we're going to try to make a difference in terms of when we identify the issues, how we measure them, what's happening on the ground.
And that's where your organization now will come into a point. That's where your organization will come into a point.
Absolutely.
Give it an analysis of what happened and speaking to the authorities in ways they could prevent these things from happening and reoccurring again.
Because as we speak about the issues, people are even calling, and I had a few calls last week saying to me, this is happening in this area. There's a gentleman who walked up and gave me some contact for a defensive driving entity that actually is working here in Greenland. I wasn't aware of
it.
But they're doing it through their business company. The drivers and so on are being trained by this entity in defensive driving. And my understanding that this entity that we're speaking about, their driving rate of accidents and emergency, that has decreased considerably because of that input. So the company is investing in building that safe capacity within its own drivers. Now,
it's good to know.
That is an advantage to the company. I wish more companies can do that. So how do we take this to individuals? What we are trying through the Asher McIntyre Road Safety Foundation is to get the legislative arm, to be part of that, so that when these entities are identified and when the issues are identified, they said to me, a lot of the bus drivers should send them to that driving school. And a lot of people who on the road who are involved in certain accidents and so forth, the way they behave, we should send them to do certain counseling. And I think if we keep ponging this a bit more,
and it's not a bad idea.
It's not.
It's not a bad
really
idea.
Isn't.
It's not a bad idea.
Our psychologist, he spoke about it on air the last time he was here, and so the magistrates and those who are associated with the magistracy and the judiciary, they also listen to our programs, and so they'll be thinking, but that could be an angle. While the law itself may have specific awards and punishment, but they do have certain autonomy within which, and certain community service and other things that they can recommend.
Yes.
So if they have the option of saying, here we have community service for you, and community service could be quite a bit.
Yep.
We have this penal or the merit system that you have to be part of. As a result of that, you are required to do X, Y, and Z. And the magistrates and judges, they do have the autonomy to recommend certain things for corrective measures, not just for punishment, especially within the youth. But there are a lot of our adults and senior people who drive on our roads who need to go back to school. There are a lot of things you don't learn in the regular driving school, and there are things that you violate that we need to send you to.
Would you recommend maybe the period in which individuals go through the stage for driving be reconsidered?
Yes. I don't have to think about the answer. It is definitely yes.
Reconsidered. Not this little 20 exams, and then you can go up for your practical driving. You understand? And it probably should be extended over a period of time.
Yes.
What don't gives an individual, you should be be fought maybe for a year.
Yes.
Before you could actually go up and say, well, I'm going to do the practical exam. So which means you get to do the defensive driving. All of that should be inclusive before that final exam.
Yes.
I mean, just a thought I'm having.
No. But we are creating opportunities for people, because I see an entrepreneur who is looking for talent or otherwise or opportunities. That's one for him.
Yeah.
We can work that through a mechanism where there's this formal entities that would train and teach people. If you have a driving school that becomes all-inclusive, where they do classes in defensive driving, they would bring their module to the driving authority, and they would authenticate it or authorize it, so that it becomes a requirement down the road for persons to do this. And as you mentioned, the driving and the exams and so on, we mentioned it before, that it might be outdated and may require some level of modifying and modernizing it to an extent.
Yes.
The highway code that we use is not necessarily ours, and
the demographic of it is totally not Grenadian.
Totally not Grenadian and different.
I agree.
And in terms of the people who might be very intelligent, who just find the formula, you know how to set your vehicle at a certain point, you put the markers, you go do it. Is that preparing you sufficiently for the road? Psychologically, are you ready for the road maturely? And we think that there are entities, countries I know, that after one passes an exam, and this is why I say we need to go modern. You pass the exam, you have an L, but the L is kept on the vehicle for 6 months or sometimes to a year. So that person can drive freely, but that person must drive the vehicle with somebody else in the vehicle for a period of time.
Especially who has a valid license.
They already have a valid license
with them.
But they drive for a period of time to get their confidence level. So this has two things on it. One, it gives the person more experience.
I agree.
Two, it allows the other motoring public to be conscious that there is somebody who has little experience on the road, because when you sit in your vehicle and somebody's another one, you can't tell that it's somebody that got the license just yesterday.
Just last week or 2 weeks ago, and they're driving on the road, and just something I noticed yesterday, and I mean, as we on this, I've noticed someone teaching someone to drive, and they did not even have an L on the vehicle. Right. I know the youngster.
Okay.
And I know they're not even the age range.
So that's a violation?
That's a violation, right? Okay. Even though it's Sunday and whatever. And I know the individual, they're not even within the age range to get a learner's permit.
Okay.
You understand? Wow. And they are driving. Yes, they look like if they can handle, but it's a violation.
Yes.
You understand? I'm looking at the youngster driving. I'm happy that a young person is able to handle a vehicle, but the violation part of it. And you on the main road. That's another problem there again.
So what we require more in Grenada is not necessarily, I agree we need more police officers, but we need more law enforcers. So every citizen, when you see things like that, report it. You see, like you mentioned it on the program?
Yeah.
People see it, let people become conscious. But listen, it's not only the police, because I guess we established on before that policing is not 8 to 4, Monday to Friday,
and it's not always left up to the Royal Grenada Police Force.
It left up to every one of us to enforce. Like yesterday, somebody told me that they got a ticket from a police officer, and the question was, do police officers give ticket on Sunday? And I cracked up and I said,
policing is a
continuous
every day. Police is on duty.
Law enforcement is continuous. You see, I think, and this is where we're cultured, that police cease their activities at particular times. Their presence become limited at certain hours and at certain days. So people tend to believe that if they hear of an arrest or an offense committed and a police intervene.
How it could be on a Sunday?
How could it be on a Sunday?
And I think that's the way a lawbreakers take advantage, because I could do this around that particular time. There's no police around. I could do this on a Sunday because there's no police around. You understand?
But if we change it around GT,
if we change the whole culture of that
there is no police around, but somebody in the community will report me to the police, it means that could be a difference. So what I would love to see, that Grenadians will become more conscious of law. I think law-abiding things.
Yes.
I think last week one of the callers said that Grenadians are reckless in some or
something along that nature.
Lawless.
Becoming a lawless state or something else.
And I disagree that we're definitely lawless, but we could be heading that direction. But if we collectively decide to report issues,
Sylvan, I have always made this statement. I think, the authorities allow things to deteriorate for too lengthy a period.
Right.
And someone has told me, maybe I can't say that, but if things are allowed to deteriorate, it's hard to repair it.
Absolutely.
It's hard to repair it. As much as we may try, once it gets to the deteriorated state, it's hard to repair it.
Absolutely. Great.
And even though you try to repair it, the only thing you could do is come up with something new. So the old thing, you can't fix it anymore, but then the new thing, then now getting the individual to adapt to something new becomes a problem.
Not only in Grenada, it's a general thing. Adapting to change is always very difficult. Are we due for a break?
Yeah, we due for a break. Let's take it. We've been talking for a week. We come back. Yes. We come back, and we certainly have a lot to talk about. And don't forget, you viewers and listeners, your participation is vital in today's program. Feel free to give us a call, 435-2041.
$3,000 every week for 3 months.
What?
Yes, it's the NLA's Crazy Cash Giveaway Promotion. Every week from April 11th to June 30th, 3 lucky Daily Games customers will randomly win $1,000 each week. Imagine winning as much as $36,000 in 12 weeks.
How?
Spend $12 in a single purchase on Daily Cash 4, Daily Pick 3, or Playway. Look for the words Cash Winner on your tickets to collect $1,000. The more you spend $12 on your favorite daily games, the more chances you have to win. Must be 18 or older to participate. All prizes must be collected by July 7th, 2023. Other terms and conditions apply. See stores for details. NLA, making your dreams come true. Money, money, money.
On Saturday, July 29, Montrouge Plainfield will be transformed into a sea of grills as food, fun, and friends collide. It's the 10th annual Maggie King of the Grill competition. The best chef and barbecue kings and queens compete for cash, a new grill, and the title of Maggie King of the Grill. Come savor the flavors. Try to bust the ice cold bar and let the kids have their way in the bouncing castles, pony rides, slides, and games. Try your hand at dominoes or the beer and leg competition and win instant cash. Come 7 p.m. you go stateside to enjoy performances from top local acts. It's a whole evening of fun at the Maggie King of the Grill. Saturday, July 29 at the Montrouge Plainfield. Gates open from 12 noon. $10 gets you on the inside. Powered by Maggie, Hot 98, and GBN Television.
Hey, welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's to the point for today, Monday, June the 19th. Welcome back, Sylvan. Sylvan, we didn't touch something. I guess most of our viewers who are male and our fathers, they're probably a little upset. We didn't say, happy belated Father's Day. How was your Father's Day yesterday?
Oh man, you don't really want to know, but Father's Day yesterday for me was different.
Yes.
Because when I became my first Father's Day, my son was just about 6 months old. That's the one who tragically lost his life earlier on this year.
Okay.
So that for me, and the church where we grew up, I was there yesterday, so that was painful.
That's understandable.
That was kind of a painful, but coincidentally, he left with us a 7-month-old boy.
Okay.
And I connected with him yesterday, my grandson. I loved him up. I held on to him. It was like a
kind of fill the gap a little bit there.
Yes, a piece of my son that I lost spent Father's Day with me. But on the other side of it, Father's Day, GT, I think it seemed to have been like a meltdown.
Yeah.
And it does not take the kind of a stage that Mother's Day would take.
Get. What was the reason for that, by the way?
And I tell you
what do you think is the reason for that?
We advocate for the change in society and for men to take up levels of prominence, but sometimes we create that downside environment for that to happen. And society and sometimes a lot of what we do will have to take some responsibility for that. If we say that we want men to step up to the plate a lot, maybe a lot more emphasis should be placed on men and maybe even showing their importance.
So we get that feeling of unappreciated. You get that feeling. Sometimes you wonder why men don't stand up and do what they do.
Yes.
It's not that we are encouraging it in any way of the sort, but sometimes they don't show us any appreciation as being a father.
And I hear that from men a lot.
I do hear that also.
I hear that from men a lot.
So what's the big deal with putting the emphasis into Father's Day? And maybe if more appreciation is shown, more men will do what they have to do. Although he doesn't need a day to really show it to do it, but
at all. But people tend to believe that love is just a woman's thing and a man is supposed to be on the giving end. But a man needs love just like you do, ladies.
So true.
And fathers need to be shown the level of importance and respect like a mother would. And both people need to show respect to society as parents should. And so the day of recognizing somebody, it should not be just a day, but when the day comes, show it, man. Yep. Every day should be a Father's Day, and every day should be Children's Day, and every day should be Family Day.
Last Friday I had a gentleman here who wrote a book pertaining to his father, and he talked about he been raised by his father,
right?
Both him and his two other brothers, from being a young age to where they at, to when his father departed this world.
Right.
So it shows that fathers do play a role in that.
Oh, absolutely.
You understand?
Absolutely.
Even though there may not be that mother wrong, you may not get that proper way of bringing in certain ways. But sometimes the discipline part is a little bit more stronger.
Yeah.
You understand? Yes. From a father than a mother. You understand? Yeah. But he was just indicating to that,
And when the men do attend PTAs and so forth, give them a big up.
Yeah.
And when they live up to the responsibilities and you see them crossing the roads, holding hands with their little daughters or their little boys and so, give them a big up somewhere.
Yeah.
And some the media could play a big part in doing that too. Let men know that they are important, and just like you criticize them when they do the things wrong, big them up when they do the things that they should do. So that's it on Father's Day. Our regret is that
doing it in the intro.
it seems to be dying like a painful thing, and we need to revive it and to show that importance to men a bit.
All right.
So that we can review.
That's a little bit of review. I want to go to science. Last week I had the Royal Grenada Police Force here and our topic of conversation was basically on science.
Road science and things?
Road science.
Oh, ready. Okay, good.
And for conversation's sake, I brought up and I had the videos of what we presented the week before. I showed it to them, understand, so that they can explain it to you what these science actually. Because I realize, even though we talk about it, there's a lot of folks who don't understand what the signs actually mean.
Yes.
And the proper use of them, especially the pedestrian cross, and we may see a sign saying certain things like that. This was explained last week when I had the police between no entry and a no through road.
Yes.
You know, that was explained to a bit because that was a question that came up from someone who was listening.
Yes.
Because when we see no entry, no through road, so you're wondering what's the difference?
There's a difference. I should have did explain that.
He did explain that.
Yes.
So science was a topic of discussion last week, which was a fruitful program last week in terms of explaining that.
So on science, then let me fill in on science.
Yes.
So we did speak about how people respect and treat science, and we showed. Did you show them that pedestrian cross that was backward, facing the TAMCC?
I didn't happen to actually. Yes, I showed you that. That came up. But the officer didn't say anything about it.
Because really, it's not their responsibility.
It's not their responsibility,
to,
you know. But
science.
He did indicate who's responsible for science. Yes, you know he did said that the Ministry of Works is responsible. He did also. I'm trying to recollect. He did say also the traffic department is responsible for erecting certain signs. But when he says signs, like the the no entry and the cones in the road,
right.
Signs of that nature, they are responsible for
police
signs. You understand? Right. And then he did said some of the entities also responsible for signs.
Right.
You understand? But after consulted with the police, they are permitted to do that and so forth. You know.
So we almost criticize the media entity for not having a system of information and the platform of the information dissemination. We want to not necessarily retract that, but we know that there's some traction outside there.
Yes.
We know we have a wide listening and viewing audience, even if they don't call in, but we know that some things are taking place. Because after the program last week, we had somebody called in at GBN requesting my contact and saying that they were responsible for road signs, etc.
That's good.
They were listening to us.
So that's what we said. We made some little dents.
We made some dents, definitely.
we made some dents.
So good news.
Good news. I'll leave it up to you, sir.
That sign in Tantine, that was facing the bush to the students, that was corrected.
It was corrected. That's good.
We want to say congratulations to those who are following up on that. We look to see more happen. So that sign, that road safety, we know that we probably would have saved by that intervention maybe a few lives and a few injuries.
Exactly.
Because people can become
a driver on the road could say, hey, there's a sign that's making an indication there, and of course making use of the sign.
Absolutely. And then that famous vehicle burnt out on Cemetery Hill.
Been removed.
Was removed.
That's a good.
We wish to say again, thank you to the authority. Whether it was our influence or they had intention of doing it, it's been removed, and we appreciate that, and we look to see much more. Those signs that are still locked in the bushes, the one close to the Botanical Garden, that's a very big eyesore. We hope that could be removed. There is also a crossing, a safety school zone crossing heading up to the Anglican school.
Oh, that one hasn't been taken care of yet.
That get knocked down and thrown down below the hill. That has been replaced. And if you drive on the Woodland side, just before you get to Markers, that guy who sells stationery, on the opposite side there's a hump, and there's a sign that says slow, hump ahead. It's lie down on his face.
That need to be
into the back.
That need to be fixed.
That too need to be fixed. Because
as you said that, Sylvan, I think that's something that needs to signs would need to, especially close to those humps. I think there should be a slow down hump is ahead. I know there are some areas where they do have that sign, but I think it should be a bit more visible.
Right.
Because sometimes if the user driver, sometimes you missed it.
Yes.
You understand? You missed it. So if there's something that indicated something that maybe lights at night or something, so you could see it.
There should be more reflective painting and things at those humps, because not just the humps. The humps you should be warned before getting to it, and then they should be reflective enough at night or otherwise conspicuous during the day, so that somebody can see that. Because one, it deteriorates the integrity of the vehicle, cause more bushings and other things to go, and secondly, you can create some accident otherwise.
I mean, you did mention in a previous program you don't think they are serving their purpose, what they are for. You did.
They're really not serving it.
They're not serving, the hubs are not serving their purpose.
I don't want to lose this one though. When I left the program last Monday, on my way up Locust Street, just by the old government house opposite the Red Cross building, I want to raise the issue on slipper drains and box drains. Those are safety issues, to be honest. And on the left, towards the old government house, there was a vehicle down on half of its side down in that drain. You know why it went down there?
That's been unhazarded for a lot of years now.
Yes.
A lot of years now.
And that need to be corrected.
You know, for a lot of years, those drains, because sometimes the road is not that wide in that vicinity there. You know that, right?
Right.
And depending on how you drive as an individual, if you're not too careful or know how to maneuver, you can slid off.
So what could be a corrective measure? It may not happen, it should not happen everywhere, but the traffic and road transport departments, they should do an assessment of these risk areas. And there are places where you do not necessarily have to cover them to make it difficult for clearing, but you can put grills over them. There might be a cost, but there will be people who will be willing, maybe corporate citizens might be willing, businesses that might be in a particular area might be willing to contribute towards some of those grills. So you can put grills there so that, one, the vehicles, if they happen to veer off, they can go onto those grills. And two, it serves also, it can help as a pedestrian walkway.
Yes.
It is not a perfect sidewalk, but if the grills are close enough, people can walk on them and still stay off the road. The other aspect they can use is at nights, in some cases, people don't really understand when they're not on the road. So one thing you can use, like they do in Tantin, in some places they put these reflectors on the edge of the road so you can know there is the edge. The other thing that could be employed, though, is in the wider states and international community, they do these rough-up areas. So when you're off the main highway, you know you're not on the road, so your wheels start roughing up. They make it not very smooth. They put these...
So you will want to come back on...
You get back onto the road because you realize that there is this roughness that you're feeling. They do create the surface for that portion.
Okay.
That once you're off the main road, you can feel it. So it gives you a sense of not running off the road, one, by reflectors, two, by roughing the edges so that you can know that you're off the main road or you're off the main pathway that can be fixed. And that's an issue going forward that we think that Grenada should really adopt. The other issue I saw coming through in road safety, the use of indicators. I visited Aruba last year. I spent, I think, about a month in Aruba. And I was amazed that one of the drivers told me that the police are very serious about indicators. That they will charge you for not using your indicator.
Interesting.
I thought that was really interesting. He said they'll drive and if you do not use your indicators, they sit at roundabouts and humps, and the roundabouts are some things that they design in a particular way as well. And he said if you don't use your indicators, the police will ticket you for not using your indicators because the indicators help the person behind you. And I think here in Grenada, we don't use our indicators sufficiently.
I don't think the problem too is not using our indicators, we don't use it appropriately.
Yes.
You know, someone will want to stop right in front of you, and that's when they will put on their...
When they start putting... I've seen that so many times.
They're going to stop right in front of you, and that's when they will start to indicate, that they're going to stop there. Or someone is going to take a left or a right turn.
Right.
And when they're about to make the turn, they will turn on the indicator. When they don't give you no previous hint, hey, at least a minute or two before they get to their destination where they want to turn, put on the indicator.
Right.
That's a problem I have noticed in Grenada a whole lot.
Yes, so I think it is something that we really need to look into because it creates accidents and it also generates a different feeling that we consider to be road rage because people are not doing the appropriate thing.
And it goes back to what I said, things are allowed to deteriorate for too long before we try to fix it. Let's entertain our caller. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning, JT, and good morning to you, Mr. McIntyre. How are you? Belated Father's Day greetings to you. I just want to have a little suggestion of teaching driving in the school. When I say that, you don't take them and put them behind a vehicle, but you prepare them mentally. You prepare them with the instruction, the way of driving. And when they reach secondary school, you have a desk and you ask which one of them are interested in learning to drive. You might surprise how much you may get. You give them 1 hour after school. And perhaps you will help them to reduce the amount of them and the bus terminal. Sometimes we just come down so harsh on our children, but when we look at wrong, especially in Grenada, ask how much entertainment or anything after school for our boys and girls that they could involve themselves in. Growing up, we had a lot of village football after school. You will see how much people in the park, but that is not anymore. So we have to have creative things to help them, prepare them. Why a child have to wait until 18 years to go to get a license. That child should prepare, know a lot about driving before 18 years. So I don't know. That is just my suggestion. Bye-bye.
Thank you, caller. Sylvan, before you respond, I understand where the caller is coming from, and I think it's a wonderful suggestion. But you think you want to encourage more people getting vehicles in Grenada at this stage that we are now, especially youngsters going to school with a vehicle or probably getting a license at a young age. I may not want to encourage that.
Yeah, well, I don't think at a younger age I would encourage that either. But I think we mentioned it in our program before in terms of what our foundation is attempting to do is to get driving in schools but not behind the wheel. Mm-hmm. But here what the caller has raised has given me an added idea. What we mentioned this morning in terms of our immediate impact, we may not see it now, but we are building for the future. Yes. And to build for the future, you need to build with children as well as because they're the future. So here's another business opportunity for us. We create these driving arcades and so on where people go and they learn to drive and they speed and so forth. I think one of the local minds, maybe one of our colleges, we see guys create robots and all of these things. You can create a driving game that teaches you how to drive on Grenada's road, and you can have our children play video games with driving. When they do something that is wrong, they get demerit points. So what you do is that you culture them from an early stage because we can't prevent them from driving. My son, who is almost 13 now, he's driving in the house. He sits behind his wheel, he bought his seat, and he has his steering wheel, and he participates in driving in the house. He races in the house, and he goes to real car racing and stuff like that. So it's
just that it's virtual.
It's virtual. So the point that the caller has made is a really good one. And if we have to be innovative, we have to be creative and want to make a future impact, I think that is one of the things that somebody could look to, maybe into one of our colleges. People don't have to, you have to get it to a certain age. I don't disagree that 18.
But before you actually obtain the license, as she said, maybe the being taught in schools,
yes,
how to drive and the right things, the right manner, the right approach for driving. That I would understand.
And you could also culture, for instance, you teach somebody and said, if this person would have done this, they run across the road, and you would test the person behind the vehicle wheel. What should have been your reaction? Should you throw out some swear words at the person, or should you take a deep breath? It's helping you psychologically, emotionally, and your physical well-being in terms of your skill could also be built before even getting into a vehicle. Because I used to teach driving, and what I did, I taught my students driving before they actually went behind the wheel. So you create the mindset into wanting to be on the road outside of the vehicle. So when you get there, you are definitely in the atmosphere, and now you're beginning to implement what you've been taught in a classroom.
All right, let's take a caller. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Good morning, TT, and good morning, Mr. McIntyre. Before I make my substantive point, let me support the first caller or the last caller. I thought she had a brilliant idea. And I had personal experience in Barbados in 1996 when I was invited by Barbados Youth Environmental Program or Organization. I don't remember the exact name now. And I was really, amazed that I was driven by a 16-year-old who was driving legally with a student license there at 16 years. I'm not saying that we try and be like the United States, become a car-centric country, but that we should find a way that as many people as possible could drive just in case of emergency. Very often we could say, like, if people know, just like with swimming, we should teach those skills that are helpful, not necessarily that people become consumers in the form of getting a car. But you should be able to drive if you know, like me, with a disability. And even if you have a disability, we should find a way of helping people to drive. Now, my substantive point has to do with maybe what you start off with. Like today is the anniversary of what would have been if the revolution continued, what we call Butler's Strong Day. It's after the Grenadian hero Royal Butler, and also Alistair Strong, who died while he was drunk, while he was fleeing the hands of the then dreaded Greenpeace and the police somewhere outside of St. George's area there. So it was being held. It was, and if my memory was serves me right, it was a half holiday. I was a teacher at the time, and I think we need to put things in context so that children who don't know and those who don't have no clue why these days were celebrated. But the part to do with the program you're talking about, linking that, is the issue of when a situation that happened and the appeal for a mass appeal for blood. In fact, that was the first day. The first time in my life I needed a call to give blood. It was very refreshing experience for me, to be able to go immediately to the hospital. And because I have O positive, to disclose a little about myself, I was able to give blood. So I think maybe you could address the issue about how do we respond in situations where blood is required and why it's important that we should consider, notwithstanding all the challenges now with HIV and everything else, and why we should consider giving blood on a regular basis. Thank you very much for your indulgence.
Yeah. Thank you, caller. Thank you also for your contribution this morning. Anything you want to respond to the caller?
Oh, yeah. So the caller actually gave us a whole airful and a lot to think about in terms of various angles on it. And that's another aspect of safety issues that we can speak about and risk management. And the whole aspect of the donation of blood and so forth is one of the things that people should become more educated and informed on. Because people tend to believe that if you donate blood, you're losing blood from your body, you will not regain it, etc. And then in terms of the blood type that is best for donating for different types of people and so forth, those are some of the things that I think, yes, you can build from that.
All right. Sylvan, we drew for a break. Let's take it. I'll be coming right back.
On Saturday, July 29, Montrouge Plainfield will be...
It is important to know what your road signs and markings means. The zigzag lines means you should not park in the marked area. Parking is allowed inside the solid white lines on the edge of the road. Remember, look out for pedestrians. Pedestrians, be sure the vehicle comes to a complete stop before crossing. These tips can save your life. These tips can make our roads safer for all users. Be safe, be seen, be smart. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Wait to see my granddaughter.
Let me say welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the point for today, Monday, the 19th of June. And, as usual here on this program, folks, we talk about ways in which we can create that bit of awareness for our listeners and viewers, Sylvan, in terms of when there's an emergency that occurs, the do's and don'ts. You understand when an emergency occurs. Now, just to slant it, just a slight twist. Was it on Friday of last week? We saw that issue where we heard heard of that crash at the airport.
Right.
You know, with that crash, and how the authorities responded and so forth in terms of, well, no lives were lost, so we're happy for that.
Yeah.
But you know, it could have been worse. And think about it, how did the authorities would have responded? And just in case, probably most likely think of it happening on the airport itself.
Right.
You know.
So there are a number of things that were brought to light for that accident which happened. So there's a difference sometimes in a crash and an emergency landing, and there's a land crash, and there's what you have a marine crash as well. So what we understood happened is that plane disappeared off the radar, and there apparently was a crash out at sea.
Yeah.
And the pilots, they got story out of that. There were 2 persons on board, and I think the news brought it that they were rescued safely.
All right.
And through the assistance of other aircraft, that area was spotted.
All right, well, not going to be able to give the precise location where they were at.
And the safety issue about that, though, we had the situation with Mr. Bell, who unfortunately lost his life, and there was the result that spoke about how adequately prepared his craft was for the sea. And there are certain instruments that one should have, and I understand reliably that the pilots were located because they were wearing beepers and detectors as well.
Okay.
That was able to give out particular signals that would have aided in getting the grid reference to where they were. That aided in the search being much quicker than it normally would have been. So had they not been adequately equipped, they could have lost their lives and so on.
All right. So you see how important it is to make sure that, especially, I mean, and it's a standard. It's a standard for planes to have these equipment and so forth that would alert others to their location and so forth. That's standard.
There is yes. Sorry, go ahead.
And it's also in comparison to the issue where you mentioned of Mr. Bell in terms of that boat crash, and we heard the final results and came out. But you see how important having the proper equipment can make a difference.
Yes. We know that there might be opposing views in terms of how people view what may have happened, but the reality of the situation, the investigation, I mean, that's open. It's open knowledge that they identified that the boat was inadequately equipped in terms of devices it had on it. And it is very, very important as users of the sea, as users of the road, and users of the air, that there are particular regulations and requirements that people need to be involved in to be on. Motor vehicles, there are certain things that one has to do. And part of this program, we will be having a mechanical engineer will be on this program very soon to explain to people some of the things that they should look for in the vehicles before actually venturing out. They would, I have sought that, and we will have one of them come on our program.
Right.
And then the follow-up with that, we have another engineer who would speak about houses, some of the safety issues.
Okay.
And then we also have an environmental engineers and all people who would speak about something that we can look for in other places with that kind of eyes on it. So the issues are many, and the factors are also many, but the experts will chime in on them. And speaking about that same incident where there was no loss of life, there are a number of factors that came into play. How the information was disseminated. People may have heard one thing and they said there were other aircrafts, and what they perpetrated about that. The use of media in terms of how people speak to each other and relay, and they can create some level of panic that has to be managed, and people should also take information and channel it from the authentic source.
You know, I was a bit concerned about that also, because you saw on social media a lot of folks were just posting stuff without having the authentic information. And you know, I was a little bit taken back about that. You know, not to say anything out of the way, but sometimes you look at individuals who were employed at the airport, they were disseminating information.
Right.
You know, I thought that was a little bit inappropriate.
Right.
You understand? You know, and especially via social media, just saying stuff.
Yes.
You know, and I thought that was a little bit out of order by them doing that. You know.
And you're absolutely right, and that would not be the airport's policy. And there would be what they would want to do, and they've done, is to disseminate the information that they understand is relevant. The basic thing they can do, similar like the police, there'll be the process of an investigation, so you don't want to panic people, or you don't want to hamper anything or process thereof. So what you want to just give enough, you confirm that something has happened, but the matter is on the investigation, and that's it.
And that basically.
And ethically, the employment ethics should be for every employee that they do not disseminate things that is not supposed to be, and you use the entity thereafter. And once it is confirmed and the information will be released, then it is okay to go and share with those who have not yet received it. But it is not the prudent thing, it is not the ethical thing to do once one is employed, to go ahead to disseminate information on a particular thing when you do not have the details of it. Sometimes you may also have the details, but the time in which you may want to give it may not be the best.
And you may not have the authority.
I may not have the authority
to
do that.
Information.
And so I'm sure there would be reprimands and other things that would happen, but you cannot prevent people from doing things. We just hope that they will be cultured and educated sufficiently to understand the downturn, the negative that can happen out of these.
Yeah. Let's entertain our caller. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Yes, overseas, when you are learning to drive, you're given a provisional license which enables you to go on the road with an instructor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for that bit of information shared there. Thank you so much.
So in this context, then, the provisional license that one have is also the learner's permit.
It's like a learner's permit.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing someone to say that something we spoke about when you were speaking about that area where the road is. Someone to say it's called corrugated edges.
Corrugated edges. Thank you very much.
So
yes. So it's just like we speak about galvanized. The corrugates and the galvanized is the little drains in the galvanized.
Okay.
They are called corrugates.
So they put the road that way would deter you from wanting to stay
Absolutely.
on it. Right.
I'm sure the caller is agreeing with us that is something that we could look at as well. Corrugated edges.
In certain parts of the
would require that.
Put that.
Yes.
435-2041. As we move along this morning, folks, it's myself and Mr. Sylvan McIntyre here, and we talking this morning pertaining to road safety as a whole. And feel free to give us a call if you do have something you want to feature with us this morning. Let's go back to the phone line. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go right ahead, caller.
Right. Since between 10 and 12 years, I driving from school in my young age, 5 and 6. I go in a bodywork garage, run to sand, clean down the place, wipe down, wash cars and things. And that time was with a man they call Sergio from Tempe. Okay. He used to do body work, fixing up old car and them kind of things. So I think is people could drive from young age, and that will save a lot of people's life, but they could do it in a garage and them kind of thing. And you never drive with slippers and them kind of thing, because that cause accidents.
All right, thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. We never said. I don't think it's wrong for someone at a young age to learn to drive.
To have the skill.
To have the skill to learn to drive. I don't think it's wrong. But I'm just saying, there's the appropriate place for doing it.
Yes.
You understand? There's plain fields or something of the sort. If you're going to do that, maybe you could get your practice, take your practice there. But I don't think it should be where you're learning to drive where you're not permitted a learner's permit and to be on the main roads. That's just my take on that.
So the law is drafted in particular ways after consideration are given to certain factors, and they would use the majority of factors to come up with the best point to make a decision. So, for instance, the voting age, the age at which people can give sexual consent, the legal age at which people can own property, or you can withdraw money, try an account from your bank on your account, and all of these things. There are reasons why these things are drafted according to age, and definitely with driving, there are certain developmental factors, your faculties, mentally or otherwise. All of these are taken into consideration when the determination as to issuing a license. But in terms of the skill set, it can happen at any time. And this is why we're not going against the grain in terms of what we're seeing is not people's inability to drive and get a license, but there are a lot of conditions that create accidents that people are not best prepared for.
And as the psychologist said the last time you have to have that mental preparedness. That is also very important. Having that mental preparedness of being able to maneuver on the roads and so forth. And when you get on the road, can you know, you being a youngster on the road and you're driving, there's a certain state of mind that you have to be in, and you may not be ready for that at that state.
That's correct.
At that stage. Yes. Let's entertain a caller. Caller, good morning, and you are so welcome. Welcome to The Point this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
McIntyre, good morning. In our growing up days, there used to be, just to go back a little on the traffic safety, and there used to be some low lights on the road, on the edge of the road. Where you talking now about roughing the edges, there used to be low lights, some little lights all along the road, some distance from each other, and that work. So I don't know if it wouldn't work in our time now, or if we probably can afford it. So I'm just asking you this to see if you remember. No, well, you might not remember. You're too young. But there used to be these lights that they were really helpful to the drivers in the night. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
I'm not too sure if they were really lights or if they were reflectors. They look like lights, because I know you see these reflectors that you have on bicycles and so on.
Yes.
I know there were these ones that were inbuilt in a solid structure, maybe like either rubber and metal, and they would embed it into the road itself, into the asphalt.
Okay.
So it becomes a part of this. So when a vehicle light or something strikes on it, it reflects as a light in itself. So I'm not too sure if they were actually lights. Maybe the color.
Back then you probably referred to as a light.
I recall those reflectors.
Reflectors at the time.
Yeah, they were reflectors.
Either red or the orange ones.
That's correct.
The reflectors.
And they were already been built into the sides of the roads.
All right.
Yes.
That's interesting there. So when we get into that time of the morning, we just have approximately 4 minutes left. We want to make a quick recap and in terms of what we spoke of this morning. And if you want to recap anything.
Oh, absolutely. So this morning we tried to have allowed for more people to call in and chime in on the safety, particular road safety issues and so forth. And we looked at how some incidents may have happened and what people we talked about, the one at the airport, which we were going to speak about earlier on, and how people need to be prepared not just for land but just sea as well as air preparation in terms of instruments and so forth. And we spoke to a large extent in terms of, which was not part of the program, but the reality of emergencies that occur and the history documenting those events. When we started and said today is June 19th, and how we treat history and how people can prepare for major events. Yeah. But in analyzing all of that and in context of the conversation, there are a lot of things that came out as we used the opportunity as well to thank the authority for really filling in on those dents that we were making, and we congratulated them for that. But we just want to conclude by reminding every citizen that road safety and risk management, again, is everybody's business.
Yes.
It is a business of every citizen to be a law enforcer. And so the issues that police are expected to enforce, other citizens can bring it to their attention. And I think one of the bigger that came out in this morning is that of ensuring that our road edges are better prepared, the box drain against the slipper drains, having grills and having what you call corrugated edges, yes, so that people can be more safe as they move along. Yeah. But I really like, in terms of what happened as a follow-up from our programs, the removal of that risk on Cemetery Hill, and to see that road safety sign, pedestrian crossing in Tantine, replaced to its original position.
Hopefully when we get here next week, you will probably tell me that you saw more of the signs that were out of place, also of the sort. They are now back. Those were hidden in bushes. The bushes were cleared. Hopefully next week we can see some of that, hear that, and thank the authority for looking into it. Probably could do that.
And we also gonna look into a little breakdown. We have a better collaboration with the police now.
Yes.
So we're going to be giving you some statistics in terms of monitoring the traffic issues. And we think that once you get the issues as to month to month, how, because they have a really nice way of capturing it. And so we want to give some focus on the accidents month by month, or probably week by week, how we can see the increase and the decrease and what initiatives are being driven. But we are keeping a keen eye on the Morris Bishop International
Airport.
Not the airport, but the highway. The Morris Bishop Highway. What kind of safety measures are being implemented or changed in that area.
All right. Sylvan, I want to thank you once again. Until we do this again, that will be next week. Thank you for always popping by and sharing information that you share. It's always fruitful information. I know there's always someone who is listening or viewing over there who's happy to hear the information that we disburse on a Monday. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Hey, folks, that's how we take a wrap for To The Point for today. Join us again for another edition. Hopefully, most likely that'll be tomorrow. Have yourself a good one. That's what we say goodbye for this edition. Goodbye, folks.